I was absolutely astounded when I started doing my research into water fluoridation. One of the very first books I read was this publication from the United States National Academies of Medicine and Science. They're top scientific professionals in the United States covering a wide range of professional disciplines, spent 3 years researching the human health impacts of water fluoridation. And when I read this, as somebody who's involved in due diligence and risk assessment, and as a parent, I was absolutely horrified with what I was reading in this publication. It was astounding. Some of the more frightening statements that are in that publication. One of them, they say, for example, that it is biologically plausible that fluoride can cause Down syndrome. That's what they stated verbatim in this report. Ireland has the highest rates of Down syndrome in the world, and the highest rates of Down syndrome internationally are to be found in fluoridated countries. They stated in this report, and this is what I was working at this morning, I came across something that was so significant. I was sitting at my computer blinking, literally, trying to figure out how can you communicate this to people where they'll understand the significance of it. That report stated that fluoride is a cholinesterase inhibitor, okay? Cholinesterase inhibitors are the basis of chemical warfare weapons. They're used in nerve gas. They were used in the First World War, and they acted as a form of pulmonary toxicity where soldiers died from toxic effects of chemicals on their lungs. Okay? That report said that fluoride is a cholinesterase inhibitor. Last week I found a publication on the toxicity of cholinesterase with regard to pulmonary disease. Ireland has the highest mortality in the whole of the OECD countries and in the whole of Europe for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. We have had a 500% increase in asthma in this country since we started water fluoridation. We have the highest rates of hospitalization for children for respiratory disorders. We have 1 in 5 children at the age of 12 today in Ireland are clinically diagnosed as asthmatic. That is absolutely astounding. And never have they looked at the link between chemically treating water with a chemical agent that actually contributes to pulmonary disease, to respiratory disease in people. And what I found this morning was a study that was published in 2012 that looked at cholinesterase inhibitors. They also linked it, in rare cases, to skin disorders, dries out the skin. 35% of GP visits in Ireland are to do with dermatological conditions in people. They talked about it, in rare conditions it can cause anorexia. How many people in this country are suffering from that condition, and they don't know that there's a link, scientifically proven link between cholinesterase inhibitors and anorexia. They also found a link between cholinesterase inhibitors and cardiovascular disease. We have the highest rates of sudden death from cardiovascular disease in Western Europe. The paper I looked at this morning, when we talk about water fluoridation, they say we're just adding fluoride ions to our water. We're adding a chemical that is called hexafluoroacetic acid. That chemical was banned by the EU in 2005 for use as a biocidal chemical, where it was being used to treat wood, leather and other products. And it was banned because the EU asked the manufacturers of it, who we purchase it from in northern Spain, to provide the environmental and biological risk assessments to show that it was safe for the environment and for humans. The company refused to give the information to the EU, and the EU restricted its use and sale and forbid the sale, distribution or use of that chemical as a biocidal agent, and that chemical is being put in our water supply in this country. It is absolutely outrageous. There have been no epidemiological studies done on it, no toxicological studies done on it, and we've been ingesting it for 50 years. And in that period, the health status of this country has deteriorated dramatically. Today in Ireland, if we look at, for example, cancer incidence, the cancer incidence in this country is 780 per 100,000. And the cancer incidence among all of the 27 other European countries, the mean cancer incidence is 380. We are double the cancer incidence of the European mean for 27 countries. Double. And this report by the United States National Academy said that fluoride causes an increased production of free radicals, causes oxidative stress, and oxidative stress and free radicals are known medically and scientifically to cause cancer. And in a paper that was published just 2 months ago, when I was on a train up to Dublin, I came across it on a cancer journal. They were looking at the implications of free radicals and oxidative stress on ovarian cancer and prostate cancer. We have the highest rates of prostate cancer in the world. We have the highest rates of ovarian cancer in the EU. And that paper said that free radicals and oxidative stress, not only can they cause cancer, but if you have cancer and you're exposed to them, it increases the cellular rate of growth in cancerous cells, and it increases the penetration of cancerous cells into surrounding tissue in terms of tumours. That's what the paper stated. It is absolutely outrageous what's going on in this country. Now, the other thing about hexafluoroacetic acid is that what they found is that when you add it to water, you get fluoride ions created, but then it also creates what are called colloidal silica compounds. These are small, like beaded pearl type compounds that are visible to the naked eye. And a paper that I read this morning said that these colloidal silica compounds are toxic to pulmonary tissues, to respiratory tissues, and to cellular function. And this is the second paper that I came across with regards to this. But they also said that they're linked to a whole other range of neurological conditions, and very wide-ranging ones. I mean, it's astounding. Again, it's just another piece in the puzzle with regard to the research that I've been reading. Another issue with this report that the NRC published in 2006, they said that fluoride can reduce melatonin in humans. Reduced melatonin increases depressive anxiety disorders. Ireland has the highest rates of depressive anxiety disorders in the world. Okay? They also, when they talk about melatonin, melatonin is a free radical scavenger, and it's found in the upper digestive tract, where it basically takes out free radicals. So if you've reduced melatonin, you've reduced ability to fight issues like cancer. The report also said that it affects the immune system, so it reduces the immune system. You're more suspect to develop any other type of disease. That report is not even acknowledged by the so-called Irish expert body on fluorides, who are not appointed by scientific bodies. They're appointed by politicians in this country, and they're principally dentists who have been promoting fluoridation throughout their careers for 5 decades. There are no pediatrists, no oncologists, no people with professional backgrounds in respiratory disorder or any of those issues on it. It is a bogus pro-fluoridation body that is totally biased towards fluoridation. Other books that are out there with regard to fluoride that are written by eminent individuals. This is a doctor of dentistry, The Devil's Poison. This book is astounding in the information that it has in it. Dr. Molenberg, when he examined fluoridation in the Netherlands, he was one of the key people to stop it over there. He had 12 doctors, medical physicians and pharmacists working on the issue of fluoridation and its health impacts among their GP practices in the Netherlands. They were about to bring a class action lawsuit against the Dutch government because of the number of cases that they had identified where, in their words, water fluoridation was low-level poisoning of the population. In their words. They resulted, the work, because of their work, and they did what they call double-blind clinical studies, they also found themselves that fluoride was a cholinesterase inhibitor. But because of their work, the Dutch government introduced a law in the 1970s that forbade the government from ever introducing a chemical into the water supply that would be used for fluoridation again. That stopped it. They stopped in Sweden in the 1970s when 7 of their most eminent professors in different background areas, including a professor who won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2001, presented evidence to the Swedish government that water fluoridation was a fraud and that the people who were promoting it were not knowledgeable on the biological impacts of it on humans. And the Swiss government stopped it immediately. There was only one city where it was being used in Finland, and when they stopped fluoridation in that city, within 3 months there was a 35% decrease in general medical ailments in the population. 35% in 3 months. These are the facts from Europe. In Germany, they stopped in West Germany in the 1950s because it was introduced by the Americans after the Second World War. In East Germany, they stopped when they got unification with Germany in 1989. Because the German government said that it was unlawful to medicate the water supply through water fluoridation, and they stopped. I would ask you to please support Aisling in what she's doing. The only way that we're going to stop this is through legal action, because they're absolutely ignoring all of the scientific studies that have been undertaken, all of the independent research that has been undertaken on this, and they just won't listen. So we will have to force them through courts in this country to come to reason and logic and basically respect the human rights of everyone in this country to obtain free, non-chemically treated water that is not going to actually harm their health. So thank you very much for listening this morning. Please spread the word.